R.J. Idlerock's going to come in on the next possession, leave it down to Armus, attacks, lays it up, in, bucket, and he'll have the free throw. Armus is just too big, too strong down in the post against Utah State. Key jab driving into the lane to Akot, to Armus. Armus throws down the dunk. My goodness, he is just killing Utah State tonight.
Defensive end, he brings so much. Of course, he's led the team in scoring is Armus.
Great play. Timeout here from Montana Tech. Pushing the ball.
Well, here he is, Mike Prater, Mladen Armus, as we welcome folks to Bronco Nation News Live here at BroncoNationNews.com. My name is BJ Rains. This is our Thursday edition, so we're also broadcasting live on the social media channels of KTIK 95.3 The Ticket, because Mike Prater is with us for our weekly Thursday segment. And Mike, appreciate you joining us, man. How's it going?
It's going well, BJ. How you doing? Let's talk a little Serbian basketball on an early Thursday morning.
Yeah, we're having fun with this series here. We've gone through Najee Smith. We've gone through Pavle Kuzmanovic. We've gone through Lucas Milner. And we've kind of hit the first guy where there's some uncertainty in terms of whether or not he's coming back next year. But I thought he was obviously a big enough part of the team that we deserve to discuss him for a show. So looking forward to this. Yeah, we're continuing our series here on Bronco Nation News Live, where we kind of look at a different player, the good, the bad, the ugly, and kind of review the last season and then spin it forward. And obviously the spinning forward with him will be a discussion on whether or not we think he comes back. Knowing the luck I've had on this show the last couple of weeks with, news coming out is about 9:32, right when we finish the show, he'll announce what he's doing. But I do think there is a decision coming any day now, it sounds like, or in the next week or two on Mladen Armus. But Mike, Mladen Armus, some folks love him. Some folks aren't huge fans of some of the easy shots he misses around the basket. He's an interesting guy, but obviously a 6'10" guy like that can rebound, that can defend. There's not a lot of guys like him. And I thought, overall, he had a pretty solid season and was a pretty big part to their championship team.
Well, BJ, first of all, I thank you for leaving me the big guy. I like to talk a little big guys when it comes to basketball. And I've been a big Armus fan from day one, just because you can see the way he plays basketball, the way he conducts himself on the court, and I think you're 100% right. He's gotten better every single year. There's a few things we can nitpick here, including field goal percentage. For a big guy, he needs to get better at that, improve at that. He took about a 4% leap backwards this past season in terms of field goal shooting. So you hit the right spot on the head in terms of what his deal is. But I think he's developed himself into a really good basketball player. Kudos to Boise State. That history, that tradition of developing guys and getting them ready for professional basketball at any level certainly has applied to Mladen Armus, and it's really fun to watch him grow, and it's fun to watch him be healthy, and it's fun to watch him go out and just flex his muscles on the basketball court. BJ, this is a personal request. I want the big guy to come back one more year.
Oh, I do too. He was obviously a big part in terms of the rebounding, the defense, and he had some big offensive games too. Overall, 8.0 points per game, 7.1 rebounds per game. And very interestingly enough, you pretty much know what you're getting with Mladen Armus. The last 3 seasons, 7.7 points, 7.8 points, 8.0 points, and then rebounds 8.0, 8.1, 7.1. So he's literally been an 8-8 guy or an 8-7 guy 3 years in a row now, which you need, they don't need him to score 20 points a game. They have those other guys, but for him to give you 7-8 points a game, give you, 8 rebounds on average, he did a lot of the dirty work. And, there's a clip that maybe we'll show here, but I was looking on Twitter for some videos for Mladen Armus, and there was one literally that someone made 2 minutes and 12 seconds. That was only what he did in the Mountain West tournament game against Wyoming. Wow. Remember that game against Graham Ike where he pretty much shut him down? That was the game where Graham Ike wouldn't shake his hand at midcourt, and he got kind of fired up in the semifinals. And whether it was scoring, whether it was defense, I think he had like 4 or 5 steals in that game too. He had some really big games. I mean, he had 11 and 13 against Ole Miss, 17 and 12 against Santa Clara. Obviously, that 22 and 19 against Utah State. You saw a couple of those clips there in the open. 16 and 13 in that Wyoming game in the Mountain West tournament. We can get to some of the poor games as well, but when he was going with the rebounds and with the scoring, he had some monster games for this team, Mike.
But that Wyoming game, I think about that game a lot, and just the attitude, and you could tell like in the first 3 minutes, maybe even the first 90 seconds of the game, that he had some kind of a mission. I don't think he knew at that point what was exactly going on, but when you got a guy like that with attitude that can come out and just fuel that for motivation and play better basketball, you wonder if you can find that channel every single time he plays. But when you find it, it's a beautiful thing, and that's exactly what he did. It was fun to watch that game. That's the kind of Armus that you need moving forward. And you're right, BJ. You don't need 20 points. If he could get you 10 and 12 12-10, whatever it is, and stay competitive in the games. And that means stay out of free throw or foul problems. That's a good thing. Let's talk about, the way he plays against bigger guys. I think we need to talk about that during this show. Maybe that's one area of concern moving forward. When some of these bigger, more athletic guys, he struggled, but there was plenty of games where he didn't, and his improvement was amazing this year.
Yeah, and you can see some of the highlights here. Here's a nice putback that he had on EK in the tournament game as we roll through the highlights here. And yeah, we'll get to the areas for improvement, the negatives. Well, let's stay with the positives for now, Mike. Number one offensive rebounder in the conference, 3.17 offensive rebounds per game, 111 offensive rebounds in 35 games. So literally every game he played, he was going to get you at least 3 offensive rebounds. He had 2 games this year, Mike, where he had 10 offensive rebounds by himself. Wow. in one game. And, you just think about, again, defensively, but also he was durable this year. He started all 35 games. Him and Abu Kijab were the only 2 players to start all 35 games this year. He gave you 26.5 minutes per game, even kind of despite some of the games with foul trouble. 49.3% from the field. Now, again, most of those are dunks and layups, but he still shot basically 50% from the field, which may surprise some people with some of the bunnies and things that he missed. I mean, his percentage really should be about 65-70% with how close he shoots from the basket.
Yes.
But you mentioned the 44% from the line, which we can get to. But overall, he was a rebounding machine. Again, the number one offensive rebounder in the conference. And overall, just the 19 rebounds he had against Utah State were the most any player in the Mountain West had in a game this season. So, didn't win any Mountain West Player of the Week awards. I don't think didn't win, any accolades in terms of all conference, but he was a guy that, when he's out there, I think it makes the team better.
Absolutely. And don't forget, as a fan of the Utah Jazz and Rudy Gobert, we like to call it the Gobert factor. Don't forget about the Armus factor in terms of stuff that just doesn't show up. The way you alter shots, the way you change the paint. We know he can move around. He's very athletic for a big guy. I worry about his knees. I worry about his mobility, but he came through it. And I love the fact that you pointed out that he was 35 of 35 in games this year. So he's been dependable. He's been available. He's done everything that he's asked. I think it just comes down to, we'll talk about his future, but it comes down to the shooting, the free throw shooting, the field goal shooting, getting a little bit better there. But I see enough improvement in this guy's game all around because I think he could be a good all-around player. And by all accounts, he wants to go play professional basketball, whether it's overseas or not. He's not going to be an NBA guy, but he can make a living for a good long time as long as his legs and his knees stay healthy. So I like what I see in Mladen Armus. There's absolutely enough reason to think he could come back next year and be one of the more dominant players in the Mountain West Conference.
Yeah, and I think his defense is worth mentioning too. I mean, you saw in that clip with Graham Ike, whether he was fronting him, whether he was playing, he plays with a ton of energy. And, maybe he's not the crazy shot blocker. I think he ended up with just about a block a game on average, 0.9 or something like that. But, so he's not going to go out there and block you 5 shots a game. But he plays great defense. He battles. He doesn't let guys, back into him. And this league had some pretty good big guys, whether it was Graham Ike or Orlando Robinson, Nathan Mensah at San Diego State. You can go down the line. There were some pretty good big guys. And, there were games where they got him. Graham Ike had 30-something in the first game at Wyoming, which we're going to talk about when we get to the negatives. But, I think that his defense, we talk about the rebounding, and that's obviously huge. Boise State was the number one offensive rebounding team in the conference, but also the number one rebounding team in general in the conference. And I think a lot of that had to do with what Mladen Armus was doing on the glass. And so we talk about Boise State's defense this year. Well, that was a lot in part because they weren't giving up offensive rebounds. It was one and done on the other end, and their defense was fueled by their defensive rebounding, and a lot of that was Mladen Armus on the interior. So I think his defense and his rebounding, but in particular for me, his defense, I think goes a little unnoticed or a little overshadowed maybe by some of the other guys, and it's not really sexy to talk defense. But when you talked about this team, Mike, being the best defensive team they've had in a long time, I think Mladen Armus down there controlling the paint was a big reason for that.
Absolutely. And I'd like to talk to some of these Boise State assistant coaches. I'm sure they have some analytics on, the defensive numbers when Mladen Armus is in the game and Mladen Armus is not in the game. I would imagine it's a pretty significant deal. He roams the paint well enough that it's almost impossible. I mean, you can certainly make plays on him and back him up, and an athletic guy's going to get him a few times. And we certainly saw some of that, but he's a big body, and I think he roams well. It seems like his feet are really, really solid to me for a big lumbering guy. So I think he does do a lot of damage in the paint, and it's really nice to see. You can see him get better, especially on defense every single game, and that's very promising, BJ.
Yeah, a couple of comments here agreeing with you. Armus is a lot more flighter than he looks. He can lock it down when he's not in foul trouble. Perry saying he's the epitome of a Bronco athlete, blue collar. Rudy says the free throw shooting improved over the year. It shows his work ethic, and he's a lunch pail type of guy, just shows up for work. And blue collar, lunch pail type guy showing up for work, doing the dirty work, the defense, the rebounding. That is Mladen Armus, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly what he does. And it's not always pretty. Sometimes it's lumbering. Sometimes you shake your head and go, really, dude, you're going there. So I do get that there are some hiccups and some warts in his basketball game, but I think that's a great way to provide it. I mean, if he was a football player improving the way he does on Boise State's football team, he would be the blue collar guy that we always talk about. He is the epitome of blue collar and working hard and getting better all the time.
Don Moe chiming in that I hit on the head. Armus is a monster when he's not called for fouls. And that is obviously a couple games where he got some quick fouls and went to the bench. And some of the fouls we'll get to, I guess, were just kind of silly fouls out at the 3-point line too. But Rudy's saying you can't stop Mladen. You can only hope to contain him. I mean, again, they had so much firepower on the outside, Mike, with Armus. I mean, with Akot and Keyjab and Shaver hitting the threes. And it's pretty easy to forget a guy like him, but you're not Mountain West champions with Mladen Armus. It's pretty simple.
Oh, I would totally agree with that. And that was the beauty of this team, is all the working parts coming together. They didn't have a lot of depth, 5, 6, 7 guys that could contribute at one time. And certainly Mladen Armus was a heavy part of that rotation. You could see that this team was different when he would get into foul trouble. And it was usually those big athletic guys where he was just probably trying too hard. And then the dumb mistakes out there on the perimeter, because sometimes you got to drag him out there. Some of these 7-footers these days, 6'10", 7-footers in the Mountain West are shooting 3-pointers and playing, from the perimeter. That's not Mladen Armus's offensive game. Defensively, he has to get sucked out there and deal with that, and he needs to be smarter when he does that.
Get your comments in, your questions in, your thoughts on Mladen Armus, the good, the bad. What do you think he's going to do next year? We'll talk about maybe some areas for improvement in just a second, Mike. But first, BoiseDentistryCo.com. Those are my kids on the screen there. Our family has made the switch to Dr. Meinert. If you're looking for a new dentist, if you moved, locations in the Treasure Valley or moved to the area and just looking for a new dentist, Dr. Meinert is the guy you need to go to. BoiseDentistryCo.com. You can talk BSU while he's working on your teeth. He's a great dude, great staff. Check him out. BoiseDentistryCo.com. Transportation compliance service. If you're looking to get into the trucking industry, over 1,000 people a day are making the switch. It's a booming industry right now because of the pandemic, but there's some steps and some permits and things you need to do. Let TCS take care of it for you. They're a local company, but they help folks all around the country. And again, big BSU supporters. So check them out, transcompservice.com, and let them help every step of the way, get you on the road. And of course, United Commercial Insurance as well, UnitedCommercialInsurance.com. They make business insurance easy. So if you own a business, you think you have good business insurance, check them out. They can help you out. They can get you a better rate. And, just call. All it is a quick call and just see. And again, they can write policies in 44 states around the country, even though they're a local company here in Boise. So check them out, whether it's the liability, the workers' comp, all the insurance options, they can take care of you. UnitedCommercialInsurance.com. Appreciative of all of our sponsors here on Bronco Nation News. We'll tell you about a couple others later in the show, but the comments are rolling in. Darren says loves the videos. When is IST going video? I think that's coming, right, Mike? You guys are working on that.
We're working on it. It's about Prater's appearance. Prater's got to clean up his act a little bit. We can get away with 30 minutes in the morning with you here, but to do it every single day in the afternoon, Prater's got to work on his appearance a little bit.
Kurt Blake says Mladen can be a taller Kurt Rambis. You going there? You going there?
That is interesting. I'm going to have to think about that one. It doesn't really click with me. I don't know if he thinks that's physically or matching the games. I don't see that one. I don't see that one, BJ.
All right, we just spent 15 minutes praising Mladen Armus here, and there's a lot of reasons to praise him, but we're looking at both sides here and kind of analyzing these guys, how they can get better, all these things moving forward. And for me, Mike, it was just too many games where Mladen Armus disappeared and was just a no-show. And we talk about the great games he has: 22-19, 16-13, 17-12, 11-13, and I don't need that every game. But I need more than, no points, 4 rebounds against Tulsa. No points, 6 rebounds against Wazoo. 2-6 against CSUN. 0-2, no points, 2 rebounds at Fresno State. We can go down the line here, and 2 points, 6 rebounds against CSUN. CSUN, I mean, come on. And you look at some of the games here at San Diego State, he didn't score. At Wyoming, He was 3-6. And if you remember at that game, Leon Rice kind of called him out after that Wyoming game on the road that ended the 14-game winning streak. And he told me, like, hey, we can't play 5-on-4. Like, we have to get more from Mladen. And you don't hear Leon Rice a lot of times calling guys out. And, I don't know if calling him out's the right word, but he praised him, but said, hey, this team's not going to do what we want to do if Mladen Armus is not scoring and pretty much invincible on the court. And I thought that was kind of notable at that point for Leon to say that. He had 6-3 against San Jose, 5-5 at UNLV, 2-7 against San Diego State. So for me, again, give me the 10-8 every game. I don't need the 22-19, but I don't want the 0-4. Give me 12-7. Give me 11-8. I'd like to see a little more consistency out of Mladen Armus.
There's no doubt that the consistency is not there, and that is very frustrating. And a lot of those, I would venture to guess that half of those games where he didn't play very well, it's because of the matchup. But the other half, I don't know what's going on. I mean, there's other times where he's not playing against anybody, and he's an average player, or he certainly didn't look like he looked the week before. I don't know what the deal is there. I don't know if it's personal things. I don't know if it's European emotions. He gets fired up sometimes, and sometimes he doesn't. I don't know if he's focused on school, maybe certain times. I think he gets inside of his head. I really think that there's some European emotions going there, and that's a stereotype. I get that, but he's an emotional guy. You can see that, and sometimes he gets really frustrated. Sometimes he gets highly motivated, and it works for him. When he gets frustrated and those emotions get swirling around in his head, I think he's his own worst enemy. And maybe that's part of the development of Mladen Armus moving forward in terms of getting him to be more consistent upstairs in his head. I'm not talking about mental health. I'm just talking about having a clear path, clear mind, clear head, and getting out there and playing basketball for 30 minutes. So that's definitely a part of it. Only Armus and Leon Rice and his coaches know what's going on there, but his inconsistency drives you crazy.
I don't know why I'm doing this show with you, Mike. We should just let my wife do it because she's chiming in. Need to make the dang bunny shots and play consistently more physical. She says need to see more from him on a consistent basis. So I should have just let her do the show today because I mean the bunny shots. And I know my wife, she's obviously pulls for BSU and likes Armus, but her and my dad both. I hear every game. Oh, if Mladen could just make those short layups, and that is what I mean. He does these great moves, and then it does seem like there's one or two times every game, Mike, where he just blows an easy layup.
Yeah, and I think it's his hands. I think part of that, when we're talking about that specific play, and I've thought about this a few times, seeing those plays, I think it's his hands. Sometimes he's more open than he thinks, and he puts too much pressure on the ball, and it bounces off the glass. Other times it comes up short. So I don't know how a coach, I'm sure Leon and his staff know how to do it. This is a new job for Roberto Bergeson, who we'll talk about here in a minute. But, just in terms of developing his hands, getting a softer touch and playing with a little bit more consistency when you get inside the paint. There's no doubt that his field goal percentage, I mean, when he was a freshman, he was at 63%. Then he's kind of hovered around 52% for a couple of years, and last year dropped down to 49%. He's going the wrong way. And for a guy that's improving and getting better all the time, I don't understand what's going on there, BJ.
And again, he's I would say maybe what we say less than 10 times all season he took an actual jump shot. I mean, he doesn't shoot.
That's probably a good thing, though.
He has the – well, I'm saying if all you're doing is dunking and laying it in and doing the post moves, you should be better than 49%.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, going back to Rudy Gobert, not a great offensive guy in the NBA. He leads the league in field goal percentage. I think he's right around 72% because he never shoots more than 6 feet from the basket, and usually it's about 3 feet from the basket. Mladen Armus has he's a different player, but he plays the same game. That 49% number absolutely should be pushing 60%.
Yeah, and again, because all it is dunks and layups, and so that is one area that he needs to get more consistent, make more shots around the rim, finish a little better. And again, we're getting a little nitpicky here. I mean, the guy had a great season, but we are looking for areas to improve. Todd Clark has an interesting point here, Mike. He says on the Facebook, if he didn't get going early in the games, he kind of disappeared.
I think it's part of the emotions. I mean, when his mind is in there, he can play off that, especially if he can stay out of foul trouble. I really, truly believe he's an emotional basketball player. He's an emotional person. I can be moody, but I'm grumpy. I'm the grumpy guy here at the office, so I can understand emotions. I can see emotions when they're happening. I think he's an emotional player who can be his own worst enemy.
When he goes it with his left hand, he tends to shoot it too hard, per Prater's comments, is what Rudy says. Have you said that? Or
I haven't breaking it down right-handed, left-handed. I'll have to keep an eye on that.
No, he is right-handed, but he does actually have a pretty good left-handed finish on the layups and stuff. And Kurt says 12 and 10 would be great. So yeah, for me, it's just a little more consistency. Perry says he should be averaging double figures in rebounds.
I think so. I mean, I think 12 and 10 is, I mean, I threw that number out. Somebody else just threw that number out. It's totally realistic to think that Mladen Armus can be a 12-10 guy, right, BJ?
Yeah, I would take 10 and 10. I mean, just go 10 and 10, even 8, 9, 10. I mean, again, I don't need him to go crazy, but there can't be games where he goes scoreless and has 2 rebounds. I mean, the at Fresno game, 0 points, 2 rebounds. You're playing Tulsa, 0 points, 4 rebounds. So, I mean, there were just too many games where, as Leon Rice said, you can't play 5-on-4. You just can't. And so I guess we spin this forward now, Mike. And again, any day now, any second now, the decision could come on what Mladen Armus is going to do. He has a COVID year of eligibility left. He is in Boise working out. I've been told every day it's literally 50-50. One day you think something, the next day you think the other. For a long time, I was pretty convinced. And Leon Rice basically said as much early in the season. Hey, this dude's 25. He wants to move on with his life, play pro basketball. I think it was basically decided that this was going to be his last year. And then as the season went on, as things changed, whether it be on a personal level with a girlfriend, just whatever, he fell in love with, he still loves Boise, and it may not be as easy of a decision. It obviously isn't as easy, or he would have already announced that he was leaving. What's your gut tell you on Mladen Armus? And again, this could happen at any point. I think we were talking about why hasn't Sada signed the other day, and then he signed like while we were literally as you hit, get out of the room here on the show. And so who knows when this will happen, but just your thoughts on Mladen and what is he, 24, 25 years old? He's got a pro career ahead of him in Serbia. Does he need another college year? No. If he's having fun and, wants to stay in Boise another year, maybe he does. But I truly believe this is truly on the fence. And this is a big decision for Boise State. I mean, nothing against Lucas Milner, but they're just not the same player right now. They'd have to probably go back into the transfer portal, I would think, and try to find another starting caliber center. There's not a lot of guys that are going to, do the defense and the rebounding and the dirty work that Mladen Armus does. And Leon Rice has said, I'm not recruiting him. I'm not trying to recruit him to stay. He can do what he wants to do. We'd love to have him back, but he's 25. I'm not going to, tell this guy he needs to play another year of college basketball. He's given him his space, letting him make his decision. They'd love to have him back, obviously, and they want him back. But I don't think Leon Rice is pressuring by any means Mladen Armus on this. But this is a big decision for Boise State.
Oh, come on, Leon. You got to pressure him just a little bit. Give him a little bit of love. Give him a little bit of recruiting, and I'm sure he is. He checks in on him, sure, every day. And it sounds like Leon's got the right approach for a kid that's really got personal decisions to make. It comes down to a couple of things. We were talking about whether he graduates. We think he graduates this spring. This is his 5th year in college. He enrolled in the fall of 2017. And I know I got squirrely there for a couple of years, but we think he's graduating. The girlfriend factor is always the big factor here. And I think it comes down to the fact that, he's got personal decisions to make. What does he want to do with his life every single day when he wakes up? Does he want to go play pro basketball? Does he like the campus environment? Does he want to try to get his girlfriend to Boise? BJ, here's the one thing that I think I do know. The longer we wait for this decision, I think it's a better choice for Boise State. I think he's coming back if we wait. If we're still thinking about this and talking about this 2 weeks from now, I think that's a good sign. It seems like if he was going to leave, he would have already announced it, because that's when everybody else who's left college basketball has made that announcement. Not everybody. There's certainly certain storylines out there. But it seems like to me, the fact that we've waited this long to get a decision, he's looking for reasons to stay and just waiting every single day. I'm going to wake up and, will I feel a little bit better about staying tomorrow? Will I feel a little bit better about staying this weekend? So the time factor, I think, is in Boise State's favor, if indeed you're one of those guys or gals that wants Mladen Armus to come back. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think 51%. That's my magic number. 51%. Mladen Armus comes back. It's a personal decision to get a little bit better, and maybe there's even a chance where he can upgrade himself, and I don't know what he wants to do personally, upgrade himself from Serbian basketball to the G League. I think if he develops one more year, I could see him playing in the G League, BJ.
I'm with you, Mike. I've actually leaned and I'm leaning towards him coming back as well. I think that again, it was all set for him to leave, but I think that just with the team and the city and the momentum that this program is building, and I think he wants to ride it out. And I'm with you. If I had to make a bold prediction right now, I would think I'm starting to lean towards him coming back next year. And Rudy chimes in, can already envision a high-low post game with him and Sada next year. And Sada's 6'10". Somebody asked me, well, how are they both going to play or whatever? Sada's more of a guard. Sada is more of a swing man. So Sada is not taking his spot, whether he leaves or goes. And, you love Milner. You love Najee Smith. you love Max Rice, you love these guys, but they're better when they're the 6th, 7th, 8th men coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Not and nothing against Lucas Milner. We just had him on the show yesterday. I think he has a ton of upside. I think he's a very quality backup center that a lot of teams in this league would like to have, but I'm not sure he's the guy you all of a sudden want playing 26 minutes a game.
No, not the Lucas Milner that we've seen so far. He could be a development project like Armus, and certainly he's a different player, different body style. Plays the game a completely different way, but I can see him developing into what Armus is now. But I do not want Lucas Milner as my number one post guy this fall.
Hey, quick shout out Ridley's Family Markets, shopridleys.com. 13 Idaho locations. You got the at-home shopping, the Skip app, the home delivery, all that great stuff. Check them out, shopridleys.com. The Blue and Orange store as well, whether you're in Boise at the Boise Town Square Mall, you can check them out, or online, theblueandorangestore.com. They've got some daily deals online, some things, and they'll ship it right to you, all the new Nike gear. They have the NIL deal shirts too, Prater, with Shaver and all those guys. If you want to go there and get your NIL shirt, the Blue and Orange store.com. Okay, so final thing on him. You're saying he's coming back, or you're leaning towards coming back.
Yep.
I'm leaning towards coming back as well, and we both agree that's a good thing, a very good thing for Boise State, because I think the good outweighs the bad with Mladen Armus, and I think he has a chance with another offseason and to work on refine his game. He has a chance to be one of the better big men, I think maybe on the West Coast next season, if he can refine some things. We got about 2 minutes left, Mike. The other news this week, Roberto Bergerson coming back as an assistant coach. And I know you and Johnny talked all about it on your show. You were down there with me for the press conference. Pretty cool to do it right in front of his Hall of Fame plaque there at the Hall of Fame. But you've obviously been in this valley for a long time. You know Berto. You know what he means to this community. What do you think about having him back?
I thought it was a brilliant move and a brilliant announcement. When I saw you break the news on social media, I was pretty fired up. I've always had kind of a love skeptical relationship with Roberto when he was a young, dumb punk coming into Boise State. And he's admitted that. He's talked about that. He's owned it. I've always thought that Roberto Bergerson is a pretty cool dude with a lot of energy and a lot of passion for this basketball, for the sport of basketball. The only thing that bothered me was I didn't think about it because it seemed like such a no-brainer when it was announced. It's like, that makes a lot of sense. And then you go down there and talk to him and the way he's carrying and conducting himself. I went down to the Big Sky tournament last month to watch him work his magic and watch him work out when he was with Eastern Washington and do his thing, because I just wanted to connect visually with Roberto Bergerson. He's so passionate. He's so into the game. He loves the game. He's a gym rat. Gym rats grow out of being gym rats. He never grew out of being a gym rat. So it's one thing to develop high school players and AAU players. He's being now asked to develop college players into pro players. So he's got to take his game to the next level. But I think everything about Roberto Bergerson, I think it makes sense. I think it's a beautiful hire to the staff. It's an emotional connection to the staff. It makes me think that Boise State, between Roberto Bergerson and Shambrick Williams, those are the only two players they've ever had on staff here at Boise State. I need more of that. I need a little bit more of that kind of love. And kudos to Leon Rice. I thought it was a brilliant hire.
Yeah, Alexis Williams played 1 year here. He's not an assistant coach, but he was hired in like a support role. So they're trying to bring some former guys back. And Don Moe saying Leon hit it out of the park acquiring Berto. So, yeah, it's cool to have him back, and he does seem fired up, and he's already been in the gym. Lucas said yesterday already done a couple workouts with them, and he's fired up for the player development side. So, Mike, we'll be listening 3 to 6 today. Anything big on the docket today?
No, we're scrambling. We're going to start scrambling here in a little bit and try to figure that kind of stuff out. So we're looking at some NFL stuff, some draft stuff, and so we're going to talk a little basketball as well and little NBA playoffs. And tomorrow, 4:00, Idaho Sports Talk with BJ, the Bronco Nation News Report. We do it every Friday at 4:00. So we're looking forward to continuing this conversation with you tomorrow at 4:00, BJ.
Yeah, and we're a week away, right, from the first round of the draft. So next Thursday, I believe, is the day of the draft. So when you come on next Thursday, maybe we'll talk Khalil Shakir and the draft as well. So appreciate it, Mike. Thanks to JP for getting us on. And we'll be listening 3 to 6 today at KTIK.com, the KTIK app, 1350 AM, 95.3 FM, all the ways to check you guys out. And you and Johnny and JP, 3 to 6. We'll be listening. Thanks, man.
Appreciate you, BJ. Have a great day.
There he is, Bronco Nation News, BroncoNationNews.com. We'll be back tomorrow. Jay Tust. We'll talk Max Rice, and Max Rice will join us live on the show to discuss his season as well. So take care, folks. Have a good day. We'll talk to you later. Bronco Nation News, BroncoNationNews.com.